Like Sasha Banks, Karl is also not cleared to compete for tonight's 68th episode of the Essential Wrestling Podcast. To host the show instead, we have the most beautiful woman in all of WWE, Carmella. And just like at SummerSlam, I was just kidding. Carmella's not here. So, but John DeConnie, I think you on the bottom side of the screen there, you know why Al's not here. Why don't you let everybody in on the secret?
Yes, after the heartbreak of dropping the ball for episode 66, he moved his whole honeymoon around because he was not about to miss episode 69.
There you go. So, also on the show today, John Smith. How are you today, sir?
Good, man. I thought it had something to do with him at some proctology school that Tyler recommended he go to.
Well, theories are out there. Travis, do you have any theories about where Karl could be tonight?
I think he went to a new hat fitting.
A new hat fitting, okay. All right, well, in the first part of our show today, we have John, and Travis. We're going to be talking about AEW, but just to give you kind of the rundown of what's going on today, we are going to be making our picks for all of this week's shows, stats and graphics presented by Minutes to Bell Time. Picks are all sponsored by ProWrestlingPick'em.com. You play against your friends or play against the universe. And the guys, she'll like it too. We're going to main event our show today with the discussion on SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver 36 and all the comings and goings in WWE. We're also going to be talking through Impact and Emergence. Gary Mehaffy is here to talk about the two matches that are coming up this week, plus the killer match that was on NXT TakeOver. Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre seem to have aligned themselves on Monday Night Raw, but we are going to curtain jerk the show, as I said, with AEW and the return of CM Punk at Rampage. Guys, initial reactions on the moment. John DeConnie, you have anything you want to say about CM Punk as we get going here?
Just that I've rewatched that multiple times, and I like it more nothing. He didn't say anything that, shook up the world. Yeah, he had a little bit of his gripes about the WWE that he referenced and whatnot, but it just was AEW is really good at moments. That was a moment, and I absolutely loved it.
And Travis, we covered on the Daily Wrestling News Show this morning that over 6 million people watched him walk out on YouTube, and then another 4 million people rewatched the promo. So John DeConnie, he's obviously at least 2 of those people on YouTube, and you yourself are also racking up the YouTube views of CM Punk's interview.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them. It was perfect Punk. I think it was Punk what we needed, Punk what we all wanted to see, and not overdone and not underdone, and genuine and heartfelt. So it was nice to see him raw and real.
And John Smith, 0 F's given for you. You just skipped the whole thing and read what they had to say on the internet.
Pretty much, yeah. My big concern is what the hell did Darby Allin ever do to deserve all these rubs? Like, give somebody else a chance. Why does Darby Allin get the first match against CM Punk? Come on, guys.
All right. Well, that said, let's kick off our discussion about Dynamite and Rampage. I want to mention first, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston kicked off Dynamite last week. We were supposed to hear from them, but they got attacked by 2.0 and Danny Garcia, which set up the Rampage match. Then 2.0, the former Everrise, they both took a Scorpion Death Drop and then a Scorpion Death Lock to lose that match. Moxley beats Garcia on Rampage, so Moxley and Sting and Darby, they make a clean sweep of things. And then Travis, big match on last week's show was Sammy Guevara versus Shawn Spears.
Yeah, and Shawn Spears showed up. Not that he doesn't show up, but it was a really good match for him. We got to see a little bit of a preview for this at the Stadium Stampede 2 with them going at it. And I don't know, I thought their segments in that match were some of the better ones when they went cinematic on it. Overall, it's Sammy with the proposal to his fiance and stuff, kind of setting it up. It gave Shawn all kinds of heat to kind of work with off the match, blowing kisses to her from the turnbuckle and things like that. And Guevara came off the top, like really hot on top of him and stuff. So overall, a really good showing. Spears got his stuff in. Sammy certainly had his stuff in, and he was, in front of the hometown crowd and stuff like that. So like, the overwhelming cheers were for Sammy, as they're going to be on this Pinnacle Inner Circle sort of feud. Like, it's hard for the Inner Circle to not be over when they're fighting anybody from the Pinnacle these days. So overall, I thought a great match and a kind of a good way to start everything off.
Yeah, multiple false finishes there. But then Dan Lambert, as advertised, he finally came back and he brought Arlovsky and Junior Dos Santos to the ring. Lance Archer tried to come out and fight them. It's a good thing he didn't make it to the ring, though. Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page got in front of him and beat him down. So somewhere down the line, we're going to have a Lance Archer versus the Men of the Year match. Big story, though, coming out of Dynamite and Rampage this week is that the Young Bucks are going to be defending the tag team championships against the winner of a 4-team tournament. Now, this was set up because the Young Bucks defeated Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus after interference from everybody. Tony Khan says it'll be a steel cage at All Out. The teams that we had lined up, Jurassic Express, Private Party, Varsity Blondes, and the Lucha Bros. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus got the win on Rampage, and it brings us to our first match to pick for this week. And Travis, as the AEW guy, I'm going to give it to you. We've got the Varsity Blondes. I've only got one on the graphic, but we have the Varsity Blondes versus the Lucha Bros in this week's Dynamite.
Yeah, we're missing "Say It From Your Chest" Griff. So I'm going to go with Lucha Bros because I'm hoping to see Lucha Bros versus Young Bucks at All Out for the second time.
John DeConnie.
Yeah, I think the Lucha Bros take this one. I don't like rooting against the Varsity Blondes, but it's just too much goodness in that Lucha Bros Jurassic Express match, and then the Lucha Bros and the Bucks. So give me the Lucha Bros.
All right, John Smith, are you going to make it unanimous here? The Lucha Bros advancing.
Yeah, I got to go with my best friend, Penta.
Your best friend, yes. Well, you can't see his sweatshirt on the coat rack behind you anymore, so.
No, it's not winter time. I'll be wearing it a lot during the winter, so he'll be repped. Don't worry.
All right, Travis, you kind of already indicated that you'd like to see the Lucha Bros get through to the match at All Out, but so are they your official pick here when we have Jurassic Express versus presumably Lucha Bros on Friday?
So it's hard because you're right. Everybody did interfere with that match. So there's a possibility that they could end up running this thing back and getting in the cage. And maybe this is the time we see Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus win those belts. That said, Lucha Bros haven't held up those belts either. But man, Phoenix is in and Phoenix is out. And Phoenix is in and Phoenix is out. And it doesn't seem like they're full-time guys and stuff. So as much as I'd love to see that match, because, man, that disaster we saw last time in Chicago was just fantastically beautiful. I will take Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy here, and I think they're going to take the titles.
John DeConnie, what say you?
I wouldn't be against that because they entertain me very much so, the Jurassic Express. But, man, I just really want to see the Lucha Bros again, so I'm going to go with them.
Okay. And John Smith, are we getting Lucha Bros or Jurassic Express at All Out against the Young Bucks?
That's a tough one. You know what? I'm going to go with the Jurassic Express on this one.
I am with the two of you. I think Jurassic Express is going to make it. I do think Lucha Bros are going to win on Dynamite tomorrow night, but I think Jurassic Express takes it on Friday. And again, like Travis said, I think they take the championships at All Out. I think it's time to crown new champions, and I think it's time that the young guys in AEW get some gold. So continuing with our AEW story, Paul White is officially going to be wrestling QT Marshall at All Out. So I think a QT is about a choke slam away from going all the way through the mat. And Travis, on Rampage, Jade Cargill with Kiera Hogan. How'd that match turn out?
Yeah, welcome to AEW, Kiera Hogan. We're glad that you decided to leave your tag team partner in Impact. You came right in, Normally, your debut match, you're going to get a hot start, but you ran into Jade Cargill, who I don't think is going to lose for a very, very, very long time. And she got squashed.
Yeah, it was only a minute, I think, that match. So welcome aboard, Kiera Hogan, back of the line.
Start with an L.
That's right. John DeConnie, James Wheeler would like to know what's going on with Chris Jericho, if he's taking time off to do a tour with Fozzy. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know he's doing the Jericho Cruise in October. But, John, what do we know about this MJF and Jericho in the Fifth Labor?
Yeah, the Fifth Labor was the No Judas match. And as I said in the opening about the CM Punk thing, AEW is good at doing moments. And had it not been for CM Punk on Rampage, the thing that we would be really talking about in Dynamite is the fact that Chris Jericho came out to what was supposed to be abject silence, but instead the crowd in where I believe they were in Houston sang him to the ring. They did Judas without the Judas background music. It was fantastic. Okay, we all know I'm a big Chris Jericho mark, so I know it's a little extra there, but God, I just absolutely love that. Didn't so much like the way the match turned out, of course, because MJF would eventually get the submission. He'd lock in Salt of the Earth after ripping off Jericho's elbow brace, and even though Travis, Jericho, MJF gets caught trying to use the ring. Jericho uses that distraction to use Floyd, but it wouldn't be enough to get the pin. And eventually, as I said, MJF would lock in the submission, and Chris Jericho taps, and the Fifth Labor does not go Jericho's way.
No, it doesn't, which was a surprise. I mean, we thought Jericho, we didn't know what was going to happen, but we thought Jericho and MJF, this would continue, but it felt like the end of the story, but we'll see what happens. Thunder Rosa also got a win over Penelope Ford, begging the question of who is going to face Britt Baker at All Out. Is it going to be Thunder Rosa? Is it going to be Chris Statlander? No word on that yet. But we do have another women's division match on Dynamite this week.
I got a call for that match, too.
For what match?
That women's match.
Okay. The
Brian
Red Velvet and the Red.
Brian Danielson will be getting in that match.
Oh yeah, it'll be Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander versus who was the other person? Thunder Rosa versus Daniel Bryan, of course,
and Kamala.
We're all in at All Out. So, like I mentioned, the other women's match though is Red Velvet, who just lost to Britt Baker, versus Jamie Hayter, which is the muscle of Britt Baker. So, John Smith, I'll start with you. Who you like in this, Red Velvet or Jamie Hayter? Jamie Hayter's debut match.
Yeah, give me Jamie Hayter.
And Travis, you are a big B. Priestley fan, and B. Priestley is a big fan of Jamie Hayter. So are you sticking with Jamie Hayter here?
So hang on. We're being a little bit off when we're saying Jamie Hayter's debut, because I think I saw Jamie Hayter in Boston at Dynamite number 2. So her new debut, her fresh start, I'm going to take her over poor Red Velvet. Like, that cooking must not be that good, because she seems to be getting mopped up all over the place, which is too bad.
Yeah, poor Red Velvet. I think she's lost to Jade Cargill in a high-profile match. She's lost to Britt Baker in a high-profile match. And John DeConnie, is this the trilogy of high-profile matches for Red Velvet?
Yep, this will be a trilogy of L's for her, because repackaged Jamie Hayter got to go over in her first re-debut match here.
Yes, I would agree. We are unanimous there. Okay, 2 more matches for Dynamite to pick this week. And we don't know what our other 2 matches on Rampage are going to be, but we have Orange Cassidy versus Matt Hardy on the show this week. And John DeConnie, I'll go right back with you. Orange Cassidy or Matt Hardy this week?
I have been so terrible at picking any matches between Orange Cassidy and the whole Hardy family office here. I'm going to say Hardy goes over, and then maybe it sets up something for All Out, but I would not be surprised either way.
John Smith, what do you think? Is John DeConnie right? Is this going to be a Matt Hardy victory here?
No, I got Orange Cassidy winning this one. He's like one of their main guys. He needs to just keep it on the winning streak, I think, as far as singles stuff is concerned.
Yeah, it's a little hard for me to believe that Orange Cassidy would take an L to Matt Hardy, who's they're not really pushing in a singles way like they are Orange Cassidy. Travis, what say you? Orange Cassidy, okay. Well, John DeConnie, I think you were voted off the island there, but but we'll go right back to you. We have on Dynamite this week, we have Malachi Black versus Brock Anderson.
Oh,
Yeah, they'll do something to make this not, I assume, an absolute squash, but good God, I can't see a scenario where Brock doesn't take the L. And I assume Malachi Black will take some liberties at the end, and it'll bring out a whole schmaz, and Arn will come out, and they'll have to pull him off of Brock, I assume.
I think this is how we get Dustin Rhodes involved, maybe, based on what you're saying there. Travis, this is probably going to be a 12, 15-minute, 4.5-star match, isn't it?
I don't think so. I think we're going to see a beating on Brock Anderson a la David Flair from Hogan. I think he's going to get whipped like a government mule and just completely savaged. He already kicked the old man in the face. Like, this is not going to go well for him. And maybe we see like the scent of Buddy Murphy.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Maybe a little scent.
Could see it. Could see it.
Well, John Smith, Travis is basically calling this match bowling shoe ugly, and he is invoking whipping like a government mule. Will Jim Ross make that call during this match? Will Brock Anderson be whipped like a government mule?
I don't think he will literally get whipped, but he's going to get his ass kicked in a timely fashion. So, yeah, I'm going with Malachi Black. Is Buddy Murphy signed by AEW?
Buddy Murphy, his 90-day non-compete will expire on 8/31. So
he had a very curious AEW style promo video go up recently on his stuff, like Ruby Soho's did.
Yep.
Like we saw from Malachi Black. So it looks like the same producer. So that's kind of what I'm going off of with my potential there, just off his own Instagram.
Gotcha.
All right, well, that is AEW for the week. I'm going to send John and John to the back. They're going to go get their groceries. They'll be back later. And Travis, you and I are going to talk about the NWA's show this weekend.
Yes.
Man, NWA bringing it home. They not only do they have one pay-per-view, but they have two pay-per-views this weekend. One of them being the big women's only pay-per-view that we've been talking about for quite a while.
Yep. I'm excited about that. I think hats off to Mickie James for pushing this through and putting it together, and obviously Billy Corgan as well for kind of taking a gamble. Now, it wasn't much of a gamble. If you're not familiar with talented women's wrestling and you take a look at that block, it's like a G1.
That's good.
It's so good, and there's so much talent there. It's like why we haven't really seen a stateside WOW or something like that at this point. I mean, I know Thunder Rosa does Mission Pro, and that goes really, really well. But at this point, you could do a Glow live on one of the Fight or something like that, where it's just women because there's so much talent out there.
There was a show, I want to say 2 years ago. It was on the same channel as Impact Access or whatever it was at the time. And they had all the hits. They had Kiera Hogan, they had Diamante, they had Tessa Blanchard. But it was like a super produced show. Wow. And they got killed with the pandemic and they haven't been back. Plus all the talent got scooped up everywhere else. So
yeah, immediately.
Yeah. So it's a little bit hard. James Wheeler says happy the NWA was able to do an all women's pay-per-view when WWE couldn't do another one. Fair point.
Great point.
So let's talk about the card a little bit because we have the NWA Women's Champion Camille. She's going to square off against AEW competitor Layla Hirsch based on that Dynamite match.
Legit Layla Hirsch is a little smaller, as we saw, than Camille.
Face to waist.
I think this is going to be – I'm interested to see how the matches worked. Layla Hurst has impressive legs. She's very strong, compact. Camille is just like a juggernaut. She's a goddess. She's an Amazon. She could be a killer at some point. The last time I saw her in the ring for the last pay-per-view, she's still very green,
She
but
has, yeah.
an insane amount of potential. I mean, great look. She could have a good power move set to her, and somebody that is um, a good person to hold your belt. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it should be a good match. I'm interested to see how it works. Um, they're both sort of younger women's wrestlers. When you think about all the talent that's out there, the Serena Deebs and the Thunder Rosas and stuff like that, and the Mickey James, and we're even talking Melina and things like that. Like there's a lot of ring experience that's there in this high profile match. If you took two other women that they have on their actual show on their roster, they're guaranteed to have more matches than these two women put together. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Hats off to Billy for feeling like they have enough chops to be able to push this match through. It is some of the cooperation that we're happy to see, even though allegedly the NWA AEW stuff's a little bit shaky right now. So
Yeah.
we'll see how this goes. I don't obviously expect Layla Hirsch to win.
Yeah, I don't either. But if she were to win, the winner of this match is going to face the winner of a 10-woman gauntlet match that's also on this show. And the winners of these two matches will be facing off against each other on the 73rd NWA 73 pay-per-view, which is the next night. But also, so you have that women's invitational. Some of the names that are in there is your Chelsea Green, your Kiera Hogan, Lady Frost, Debbie Malenko coming out of retirement. So there's some, and I'm sure you want to mention Masha Slamovich, right?
Masha Slamovich, who just got double belted last week for her work. Great job, local-ish talent, but she's not my pick.
You got Lady Frost?
Nope.
Who's your pick?
Allison Kay, baby.
Allison Kay is not in this.
Just kidding, Lady Frost.
Allison Kay will be on the show. Allison Kay and Marty Bell are going to be a tag team in the 4-team tournament.
They love each other. They're great friends, so they're going to do good work. But I like Lady Frost. They brought her in. I mean, we got to see her down in Florida. You obviously saw her up at MCW in the Maryland area. Phenomenal. Savage Gentleman is great as well. I think this is probably her shot because she's full-time signed. Right. Yeah. She's working shows. She's come in there and done some stuff. It's an interesting contrast between looks to have her against Camille, even though they're both silver haired, so to speak. I think that's the match that we're going to see.
That's a good one. I mean, you have the other talents on there. You have Chelsea Green and Kiera Hogan that are more well known, but they like you said, they need to push somebody into that.
They got to build their homegrown stuff, I think. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, the next night on NWA 73. Well, I should mention Deonna Purrazzo versus Melina also on that night.
No joke.
That's a heck of a match. Kylie Rae's also on the card, so there's a lot of people on the card. They did a nice job putting it together. The next night is main evented by Nick Aldis versus Trevor Murdoch. Ric Flair will be in attendance. Woo. Nick Aldis defending his championship against Trevor Murdoch, who's putting his career on the line. So you got a pick in there?
I'm going to take Trevor for the Lifetime Achievement Award belt thing. Like Nick has had that belt for a century at this point. There was a lot of crying after he lost the last show and stuff. And, it was so close and he didn't get the thing. I'm going to take Trevor Murdoch because it's a feel good story and it'll be fun to have Nick kind of chase around some people and stuff. I'm actually just more curious about what Ric Flair's doing there. Why are you there, Rick? What's going on?
He is the Car Shield ambassador, so he has to be there. So
I get it, but what else are you going to bring to the table? We're going to see some chops. We're going to see a figure 4 in the ring. Is Andrade coming out to challenge Aldis?
I don't need to see Ric Flair in the ring, so let's hope that doesn't happen. But you have a full lineup. You have that match. We have the women's match we talked about. NWA National Champion James Storm challenging Chris Adonis, formerly known as Chris Masters. So full card. So it should be a fun show.
2 good nights of wrestling.
Absolutely. Travis, anything else in the world of wrestling you want to talk about? Any New Japan stuff or anything that's on your mind?
Not really. I'm excited to see all the happenings post resurgence, and we'll get to see some strong stuff and how that sort of impacted things. Having Osprey over here, they've got a couple of different dates that they showed. We got a whole ton of New Japan landing stateside with Minoru Suzuki announced at a couple of different GCW shows coming up and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. He's an insane legend. If you haven't seen him before, he's just very just awesome. So I think on the New Japan side of stuff, I think we're going to see this fresh new start, and I'll be excited to see what they have to bring to us.
Yeah, we'll be talking about G1 here pretty quick. September
Can't
18th, it kicks off. Can't wait to see who the field is. It's going to be a little tricky this year because they can't really bring over foreign talent unless they bring them over like right now, and they stay until the end of October. So, but should be a lot of fun. The G1's great every year. So
I think they should just bring everybody over and run it in the Lucha Underground arena.
well, I guess that's an option. All right, Travis. Well, we are going to bid you adieu and have a great night. And we're going to bring in Gary Mehaffy next.
All right, Gary. Good luck. Thanks.
All right, Gary Mehaffy is in the house now. So welcome,
me.
Gary.
Good evening. Good to see you all.
There we go. Change the nameplate there. Gary, what the heck's going on? We have a new NXT UK champion.
I know. Honestly, I was so pleased to see that there were even some fans and who were there at Takeover who could see Ilya Dragunov finally, and not only beat Walter, but actually make him submit and tap out in the sleeper, which is brilliant. Just unbelievable. And I have to say, the fact that Ilya Dragunov bruises so easily is a plus for him. Yeah, it has to be said because he looks like he's getting a kicking. But honestly, it's going to be a great way to kick off almost like the next phase of NXT UK. Walter, what was it, 870 days, whatever it was, as champion. And just an outstanding match. There's nothing else could follow or
Match of the year? Is it match of the year so far?
I certainly within WWE, and it's going to be hard to argue, especially because of the style of it. I mean, sometimes when people go, "Oh, so maybe some New Japan matches might be better," and you go, "Well, it was that sort of a hard hitting match." Or if people look at some of the AEW matches, you go, "Well, it's hard to argue." So if it doesn't, it's certainly going to be, I would say, top 3 of the whole year. It's just been absolutely brilliant. The two of them are so good together; it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean, so he's the 4th champion now, Dragunov, right? You had Tyler Bate, who won the tournament. You had Pete Dunne, who took it and had a historically long run, and then you had Walter, who had a historically longer run, and now we're on to the age of Ilya Dragunov.
Yeah,
and it kind of begs the question: when you had these enormously long runs in NXT UK, and even Kaylee Ray's run as women's champion, very, very long. Are we going to see a quick run here? Is it possible that Dragunov is a transition champion? Maybe it transitions right back to Walter, or somebody else.
I've thought that, and it's funny with the matches that we're going to talk about that are coming up next week. It was why on Pro Wrestling Pick'em, I almost, as we said backstage, I almost changed my pick at the last minute to Walter because based on where I think it could have gone, but thankfully I stayed with Dragunov. But I don't think it'll be too quick a turnaround, but I don't think we're going to see him in 2.5 or 3 years' time still holding the belt. I know Walter had it for so long because we were shut down with the pandemic, and I get that. But even if we weren't, I think Walter still would have held the belt for that long. I mean, he still would have had it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll be as long. But I would imagine he'd hold it through to the new year. I would say but
true. All right. Well, I want to talk about the women's championship match that we saw on NXT UK last week. But before we do, James Wheeler chiming in with the question of what your thoughts on Kaylee Ray's transition to the NXT brand are. Since you're our NXT UK correspondent, put the question to you.
While I'm sad for NXT UK, truthfully, when I saw that she came out, I was like, yes, because I know that she's so good and she is amazing, and I'm really, really pleased for her. And it's good, I think, for the NXT UK brand to see, okay, if they see that we really do have something they will give us a shot across the water. And actually, the one thing I loved about it most was when she came out. I know that the NXT fans are kind of your more smart, hardcore fans, like the same as AEW fans would be. When she came out, they knew who she was. They were chanting her name. They reckon, and for her, you could almost see like, okay, you know me. I'm made before I've even had a match, before I've even been on TV. You know, I'm here. So I honestly can't wait to see what she does. It's really, really brilliant.
And it's nice that her first program, it looks like, is going to be Raquel Gonzalez. And the entire time she was the NXT UK champion, we saw her have some matches with Doudrop, but we haven't seen her wrestle somebody so tall, at least not over here. So this is a different kind of matchup for her.
Yeah. I can't wait. Super.
All right, well, the current NXT UK Women's Champion, Meiko Satomura, she had a match with Stevie Turner on NXT UK last week, and she has a successful title defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We've talked about it before, and I know they've said on NXT TV when they this is going to be really weird that I'm going to equate Meiko Satomura with Jack Stars, but when they said that Jack Stars was like the gatekeeper and you wrestle him on your way in, at the minute for the last few months for me, for some of the women on the brand, it's been like, we know how good Meiko Satomura is, so you're going to get a match. How good are you? Show everybody how good you are. And there's been one or two people, Aoife Valkyrie being one. I know I'm slightly biased with Aoife, but being one who really stepped it up. And there's been a few matches that Meiko's had where you went, it's okay. And I think Stevie Turner is one that was it was better than just okay. It wasn't magic. But she is somebody that I think in the future that they hope that they really want to build around. They see something in her. And I think as a heel, she works better than she did when she came in. And so I do think that it was good. And it's good to get her time with somebody like Meiko to kind of show what she can do. I don't think anybody ever thought she would lose the title in the match. But it was really, really good to see how the two of them meshed and what Stevie brought to it.
Well, it's so weird when you pull out Piper Niven and you pull out Kaylee Ray out of that women's division. It really felt like a major hole, but it's filling in, and you start to see some new stars, like you mentioned, Aoife Valkyrie rise up, and we have an Aoife Valkyrie match this week. She's going to be facing Ginny, and we have Joseph Connors in a shark cage. Gary, no DQ, no DQ. So.
I don't think anybody will be shocked where I want this match to go, who I want to win, but yes, I want Jenny to win. No, I actually, and this is nearly, I'm nearly going to be sick to say this. I mean, Jenny actually, in the last several matches I've seen her, has started to show me a bit more. I was never a fan of the gimmick, and I was never a massive fan of her as a worker, but she has really started to improve and do better. And maybe it's just the fact that they're back now a little bit more regular, I suppose. And Aoife is fantastic and hasn't actually showed half of what she can do. And so I do imagine that I know they see more in Aoife long term. I would say that she should go over, but especially with Joseph being in the cage. But we all know how these things work. He could get himself out and cost her the match again. But either way, I think it'll be memorable for whatever the ending is. I think there'll be an angle comes out of it. Yeah,
for sure. But I would imagine whoever wins this feud is the next challenger for Meiko, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. And even actually, what I quite liked, and I hope they wouldn't do it just so soon, when you had, I keep going to call her Millie McKenzie, but with Amelia McKenzie, who came out with Meiko Satomura, and they started by saying, oh, she's taking her under her wing, she's mentoring her. And the first thing you think is, at some point they're going to turn her and they'll be against each other. But you don't, if this was main roster, it would happen before the end of September. But with it being here, I honestly think you're going to end up, it'll be the new year before this happens. They'll just let it play out and let it play out and let it play out, and you'll go, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden, boom, there they go. I mean, as you say, they may have taken a few, almost cherry-picked a few ones out to take across the water, but they're now filling that gap with other people coming in, which is really good to see.
it's kind of easier on them too because they show up once a month or whatever for tapings, and okay, are we doing the turn at this taping? No, okay, well then we're pushed it 5 weeks down the road at least till we have the conversation again. So it's kind of nice in that way. I was surprised last week during the sort of the middle of the show when we had Saxon Huxley get a win over Eddie Dennis. Saxon Huxley, I think he was just the big guy to lose all the matches. I thought that's what his role was.
I know Al talks, calls him about equates him to a Muppet. And he's one of the people, and this is, I'm sure he's a lovely guy. He's one of the people that I go, why are you on this brand? I don't see what you do. I know you might be there to lose matches, but you don't have very good matches. You can have somebody who's a better worker, that kind of. But obviously, it's nice to see them give him something, I suppose. But I was very surprised that it was Eddie Dennis that he put him over. As the match went on, I kind of got the feeling of going, he's going to win this, and then he did. Although, obviously, you would imagine with the beatdown that happened at the end of it with Symbiosis, you would imagine that whether there is a tag match comes out of it, whether somebody else goes with him, I don't know, but.
The Berserker, right? That's who he reminds me of.
Sorry?
The Berserker has to come back. That's who he reminds me.
I mean, if Haku can turn up in AEW, the Berserker can turn up here. But no.
There you go. Yeah. And so the other prelim match we had on last week's NXT UK was Donnie Luna versus Isla Dawn. Donnie Luna gets the win, but Isla Dawn gets the hair.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what's going on with Isla Dawn. It's funny, like with all the stuff
that you guys do over there, but I don't know a lot about witches, but I do have this wand here.
No, but like I don't know what's going on. I love the Isla Dawn character, and she lives it, and believe me, she's had this character like for a good few years. She's been working on this kind of witch type character. Now obviously this is taken to the extreme when you've had her stuff with who was it that she had? It was Millie McKenzie. What was it? It was that she has the watch. She buried a watch, and now she's got the hair, and you're not really sure what's going on. It's really kind of freaky. But to say it was good, and it was a good continuation for both, because all of a sudden Danny Luna got the win, and I'm glad because I'm a big Subculture fan. But Danny Luna got the win, but yet they still put effectively Isla Dawn over because you're pushing, she's got her hair, what's going on, what is she doing? So both things work. They pulled both along very well. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. So before we pick this week's big match, we have the last week we had Pretty Deadly getting a tag title defense over Mustache Mountain. Is it over, Gary, or are we going to get a return here?
I think we're going to get a return, and I still think down the line, and I've said it for a while, I do think that we're going to get a turn from Trent Seven at some point. Especially when it was good seeing the old Helen Hart white tile coming in. It was like, okay.
Well, it's which isn't that how they lost the NXT Tag Team Championships?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see, just to be interested to see kind of where they go, because I think they will get the rematch, but I think at the same time you'll see them going to Sid Scala saying we need the rematch, and you'll see Pretty Deadly going, oh no, we beat you, and again they'll just avoid each other and kind of do the odd wee thing here and there, and Tyler Bate will do his Heritage Cup stuff, and there'll be the odd tag match, and then in a month or two's time they'll meet up again, rather than saying let's do a rematch next week. If you know what I mean, they'll do whatever they can to build it up again and then get to that point. And I still do think the turn's coming, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, main event time of this segment anyway. We have the third match, Rampage Brown versus Joe Coffey 3. Knockouts or submissions. That's the only way to get through this match. And I think you were indicating earlier, you think whoever comes out on top of this is probably going to get the shot against Dragunov first, right?
Yeah, because it's why I nearly changed my pick to Walter, because I thought, well, if one of these two wins, they're both kind of baby faces in inverted commas and Walter's not. And so that's why looking at it. So I think, say, especially with it being the knockout stuff, I know they're really building up, obviously, because Joe Coffey and his punch and all that. I'm going to go Rampage Brown.
Yeah, I like Rampage Brown in this match too. I think he's kind of the shinier, newer thing, even though he's been around now for several months. But this is nice because they set this up for us a while ago when they did the triple threat with Dragunov in there. So they kind of planted this seed long ago, and now here you have it coming back to back. So like I said, I think you're right about the winner getting the shot.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm looking forward to it. And as you say, the wee things, like the little things like that, where you had the triple threat and he wins it, and all of a sudden now, and it makes sense for everybody to go, oh yeah, well those two were in it with him. I suppose they should. Whoever wins this does get it. And so storyline wise, it makes perfect sense. So
absolutely. Well, Gary, we also have that Heritage Cup tournament going on. We heard from Oliver Carter and Kenny Williams. I don't know if that match is this week or not, but I didn't see the.
It's meant to be, as far as I know, it's meant to be this week. The Kenny Williams Oliver Carter match, I think, is scheduled to be this week. If it is, sorry, Oliver, but you're not going to win. But I'm afraid the scum of the earth will take it. But as far as I know, it's definitely still going this week. So.
Yeah, that's the nice thing. When everybody knows you're a scumbag, you don't have to act like a nice guy anymore, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
That's something about that.
Speaking of scumbags, John Smith must be back up next. And so on that note,
yes,
I don't mean it.
Yes, I'm going to send you away, Gary. Thank you very much for being in here to talk about NXT UK. Is there anything you wanted to say to John Smith while he's here as I get ready to pull you off?
You're lucky there's an ocean between the two of us, buddy.
All right. See you later, Gary. Thank you.
See you there.
All right. Luckily, I think we put ourselves back where we belong, so that's good in terms of the name tag situation.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, we are moving right along. We have finished up the NXT UK business, and we are switching over to Impact Wrestling. So, that said, not a lot to talk about here. We have a couple of matches to pick. John DeConnie, we have a new number one contender as came through at Emergence. But before you tell us about that, let's take a look at the standings for Impact. Karl, of course, the absent host, he is on top of the pile, 40-11. But everybody else, or at least the three of us, we are on his heels within 1 or 3 points. So very, very tight race for the Impact standings. But John DeConnie, is it not the year of Ace Austin?
Yeah, usually when a wrestling company brings something up kind of out of nowhere, they bring it back up for a reason. And the last couple of shows, they started, once again talking about how Ace Austin calls himself inevitable. He wants to be the youngest ever Impact champion. And we go into this match this weekend with Sami Callihan, Chris Sabin, Moose, and the inevitable Ace Austin. And Ace, obviously it was a fantastic match with those four. They gave him about 11 and a half minutes to work. Ace wasn't necessarily having all that much luck. In fact, he was getting ready to get the lights out spear from Moose until Sami Callihan reached in and grabbed Moose's ankle, which pissed Moose off, and he reached over the ropes down to the floor to get Sami, who grabbed the chair and kind of flipped it over his head and whacked Moose right in the head. And Ace didn't even hit the fold. He would just take that opportunity to roll Moose up and get the 1, 2, 3 and become the number one contender to the Impact Championship.
So wait a minute. This event was last Friday, right?
That is correct.
And Moose was there? Because I saw Moose down the street at a different show.
No way.
Probably the same time. I don't understand. How is, of course,
this was early. This was early in the card. I'm sure he was headlining the show you were at, right?
Yeah, pretty close. Brian Cage versus Rich Swann.
Does that mean there's two moose or mooses or meese?
Mises?
I don't know what the plural of moose is, but there's probably two Rich Swans too, because he was also on the show that I was at. So, CCW show here in Florida. So, in any event, Ace Austin, he is inevitable. But two of the people that you mentioned in that match are having a match on Impact Wrestling this week on Thursday, and that is Chris Sabin and Sami Callihan. So, John Smith, I'll kick it over to you. Who do you think comes out of this?
Well, we all know Al's going with Chris Sabin. He'll never make that mistake again. I, on the other hand, am going with Sami Callihan.
Okay, John DeConnie.
After Sammy got the better of Sabin last Thursday before the emergence special, I'll go with Sabin to get the buyback. He already took a pile driver from Sammy, so maybe this time Sammy takes the cradle, whatever the hell that's, cradle shock.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Chris Sabin. I just, I think I bit the same. I had the same problem Al had. I picked Moose to beat Chris Sabin, and I can't do that again. So I'm gonna pick Chris Sabin here. Sami Callihan, I feel like he loses more than he wins. So that's what I'm going on. All right. Well, also on the card from Emergence last week, we had a bunch of title matches, and none of the titles changed hands. But the Impact champion, Christian, will be in the Impact Zone this Thursday. So we'll definitely get to hear from him as he thinks about his match with Ace Austin that's coming up at Victory Road. But the other match that we do have to pick, and John DeConnie, will start with you this time. We have David Finlay versus Chris Bay.
That graphic is fantastic, man, on Finlay there. Wow. So last week on Thursday night, we saw Juice Robinson get attacked. Well, we didn't see him get attacked backstage. We saw the aftermath of him writhing in pain and Finlay over him calling for the doctors. So I'm going to assume Finlay gets the I'm out for revenge win here over Chris Bay.
Okay. John Smith, in the private chat, Gary Mehaffy has said Chris Bay, and I'm wondering, I know he's mixing an NXT thing in there, but it's Gary. So how do you pick this match?
Yeah. I'm going with Chris Bay because I feel like he needs to benefit from this Bullet Club situation that he's a part of now. So I think maybe he wins.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm going to pick Chris Bay here. Now, one of the matches that we were talking about, one of the title matches that happened at Emergence, was the Good Brothers defending the championships against two other teams. And they are going to be facing off against one of those teams this week on Impact. And in a non-title affair, the Good Brothers will be facing off against Rich Swann and Willie Mack. John Smith, I'll go right back to you. At the end of the night, are we going to be hearing that famous Willie Mack theme music?
I think so, actually. This type of situation has them losing both non-title matches and then winning at the pay-per-view written all over it, in my opinion.
All right, John DeConnie, does that make sense to you? It's a non-title match, so give the challengers or the non-championship team the win here?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Smith's 100% correct here. And as I said last week before I almost picked them on the Emergence special, give Willie a win. Come on. Willie Mack.
Poor guy. So, okay, so just let's take a break here for a second. So we all agree that the Good Brothers are going to lose this match. Show of hands on who thinks Luke Gallows takes the pin. No hands going up there. So, sorry, Karl. Looks like Karl will be looking at the lights tonight, or Thursday night.
Yeah, Doc counted the lights for his one time for the year last Thursday when he lost to Joe Doring. So,
yeah,
that's it for him.
Yeah, we have to rehabilitate him now. So, John DeConnie, anything else in the world of Impact that we need to talk about here on the show? I guess we have Taylor Wilde, who's got some sort of match against either Tennille or Madison or something. But anything else we need to talk about?
Yeah, the wonderful Impact Wrestling site isn't giving us a lot of information on that. That is she going 1-on-2 against Madison and Tennille? Is it 1-on-3 and they're throwing Caleb in there, or does she have to find some friends to fight with her? We don't know. But not a whole lot. Like you said, not a lot came out of this. No titles changed hands. Josh Alexander and Jake Something had a fantastic 17-minute match where Alexander retained the X Division Championship, and afterwards they shook on it. Some respect was shown there, but other than that, it was a nice show. Obviously, the in-ring work is always fantastic in Impact, but they didn't do a whole lot of storytelling.
Well, fair enough. Well, with that said, then let's switch over to the hottest party of the summer, SummerSlam, which was on Saturday night. Good show, 11 matches. Kicked off with Big E getting the Money in the Bank briefcase back from Baron Corbin, which is lucky because I didn't want to deal with a mess of Baron trying to cash it in or legitimately getting a chance to cash it in. So I'm very glad Big E's got his briefcase back. And now John Smith, the opening contest of SummerSlam, RK Bro against AJ Styles and Amos.
Yeah, it made sense to start with this match, especially if they were going to be winning the match. The RK Bro, I mean by they. And they did win the match, and it was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be, but they got a lot of stuff in. Randy came in and hit his 5 moves of doom that he does, and AJ hit all sorts of crazy stuff on Riddle, and Omos got the nice choke slam on the ring apron before he got pushed into the pole. AJ Styles ate an RKO from Randy for a clean 1-2-3 middle of the ring, and we got new champs. And I think this was more about just like the celebration after the fact, which is why the match didn't go as long as I thought it might.
Yeah, we had 7 minutes, 7-minute match, and John DeConnie, James Wheeler referring to RK Bro as the modern day Rock and Sock Connection. You gonna buy that?
Yeah, I mean, they're there to put a smile on your face, and it's going to end badly. So yeah, I suppose that makes sense.
Yeah, odd couple situation.
Absolutely. Well, our fearless leader Al Karl is not here, but he would be very disappointed to have to report that Eva Marie is the loser of this match, as she lost to Alexa Bliss. But it looks like Alexa Bliss is moving onwards and upwards. She's vacating the Doudrop Eva Marie storyline in favor of a Raw Women's Championship storyline. John DeConnie, catch us up on who is the Raw Women's Champion at this time.
Yeah, we had that triple threat match between Nikki ASH, Rhea, and the Queen Charlotte. And how about that? In the end, the Queen reigns supreme once again. Nikki would counter a Riptide into a DDT to send Rhea to the floor and kind of get her out of the way. Then Nikki tried to fly, but she missed her top turnbuckle crossbody, and Charlotte quickly sucked in the figure 8, and Nikki was forced to tap. They put on a good show for about 13 minutes, but your now 12-time Women's World Champion, Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, and not to mention, she did the corkscrew moonsault, which we haven't seen in a while. She's very regularly, Charlotte being she, does the moonsault to the floor, but not often does we see her break out the corkscrew moonsault. So, yeah,
it looks real pretty when she does it, and then it looks real pretty midair, and then it looks real ugly at the end. And all 3 of them sold that one well.
Yeah, I'm not sure Nikki had to sell much. She did get her face smashed into the barricade pretty hard, but we followed that match on SummerSlam with a couple other title matches. Damian Priest gets a big win over Sheamus, and we'll get into both Damian Priest and Sheamus when we talk about Raw in a few minutes. But Damian Priest walks out the United States champion. And if you weren't keeping track, Damian Priest has never lost a singles match on the main roster. So that streak is still going even after Monday Night Raw when he faced the WWE champion, Bobby Lashley. Jimmy and Jey Uso both they together retain the tag team championships over Dominic and Rey Mysterio. And the Mysterios did not blow up, so there's no big story there. But John DeConnie, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair.
Yes, our SB moment of the year. We were going to run it back for SummerSlam. And then we are told that Sasha will not be able to compete tonight. So taking her place will be the most beautiful woman of all in all of WWE, Carmella. And the fans were not on board. They did a good job of suppressing the boos, but there was a grumble. There was oh dear, no, we don't need this. And then they hit the music, and Becky Lynch made her return to a huge pop. She gets in the ring. She tosses Carmella to the floor, jumps out, lumps her up a little bit to make sure she stays out of the ring, and then talks Bianca right on the spot into hey, let's not just do this. Let's make it for the title. Bianca accepts. Clearly a very poor decision because 25 seconds later, she takes the manhandle slam, and we have ourselves a new champion. Becky Lynch is your SmackDown Women's Champion in 25 seconds.
Yeah, and we covered this in depth on the Daily Wrestling News show, what the story was that transpired here and how we got to this point. But John Smith, who's the ultimate loser in this situation? You got Becky Lynch comes out. It took Becky Lynch longer to get rid of Carmella than it did for her to defeat Bianca Belair. So what is like the pecking order here?
Well, the way I see it, Bianca was put over a lot the past 6 months. So, she could stand to lose to the top, woman on the roster in 25 seconds. It's like Kofi getting squashed by Brock. You don't like to see it, but it was like, okay, he's been, they've had it for a while. They got what was coming to them, and now it's time for them to give it up. And yeah, Becky needed to get that title back, and I don't think it really hurts Bianca, but I just think it tells us what they think of Bianca moving forward a little bit.
I think we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And I'm willing to wait at least until Friday to see if they do a return or something on this. Kofi never got a return, but we'll see. But what's fun, do you guys want to know how James Wheeler responded to seeing Becky Lynch?
Absolutely.
He did what Tony Schiavone did. It's Becky Lynch. It's me. James also says it's good to have Becky back, even though some people didn't like the finish. So,
yeah, there was definitely a way you could have had a 3-minute match in that spot. I'm sure maybe they were pressed for time, whatever. You didn't need to bury this this person that you shot to the moon since January. And I know Al, this is a dirty word to Al, but you then buried in 25 seconds. There was a way for Becky to beat her and not make it look completely ridiculous.
Yeah, and there's a lot being discussed now about Becky Lynch actually coming back as a heel, and if Bianca is the person that actually is facing her, it kind of elevates her a little bit because she's facing in any circumstance where somebody's facing Becky Lynch, they're elevated. So if this helps Bianca get over as a face because Becky's a heel, that's good. But I think Bianca's in a bad spot because I don't think nobody's booing for Becky no matter what she does. So,
and Bianca is not convincing as babyface. So, hey, it makes perfect sense, WWE. Way to go.
We've been down this road before. Now, you were saying that perhaps the match could have been 3 minutes or, 2 minutes, or how about 4 minutes and 37 seconds? That's how long it took Drew McIntyre to put down Jinder Mahal, even though Byron Saxton didn't realize that Shanky and who's the other guy?
Veer.
It is Veer and Shanky. Okay. Even though Byron Saxton didn't know why they didn't come to ringside, even though there was a stipulation on the Monday Night Raw. But in any case, Corey Graves explained it to him. Drew McIntyre dominates Jinder Mahal, Claymore Country for the win. Then Edge makes a huge return, or Edge gets a huge victory over Seth Rollins in what I thought was going to be Seth Rollins winning to get a title shot against Roman Reigns. But Edge, he brings out the Brood entrance, and all of a sudden Edge gets the win here. And I don't know where we go from here. I don't know if Seth Rollins still goes after Roman or if Edge pivots and we get another Edge-Roman match. But Edge versus Seth Rollins ends with an Edge victory, sleeper crossface thing for the win. So, but John Smith, you have a son. Goldberg has a son. I think that qualifies you to talk about the Goldberg-Lashley match.
Well, what I wouldn't do is rip my son's shirt off on live TV when he's 11 years old. But I digress. So we got Goldberg challenging Bobby for the WWE title. I thought that Goldberg was going to win, so I thought this was going to be a short match because that's usually how it works. Goldberg catches you off guard, and then he beats you, and then you bitch and complain about it the next day. And the longer this match went, the more I knew that I was wrong. And eventually, Bobby slams Goldberg into the post a few times in a fireman's carry position, legs first. And then Goldberg can't stand up and quits. Or did he quit? Did the ref call it? I don't remember exactly. But MVP said on ref stoppage. Yeah, but MVP said on Monday that he quit. But, either way, he can't get up. I think it kind of makes Goldberg look weak, to be honest with you. He had this Superman heroes type of gimmick. I got to show my son I could do it. Don't you think he would have stood up on that busted leg or just stood up on one leg and taken a couple spears for the loss,
I agree with you. I think if it was 1998, 7 minutes and 11 seconds, Goldberg could have beat about 12 guys in that much time. But it's not 1998 anymore, I guess. But in any case, obviously we didn't do anything about the Goldberg situation on Raw the next night, but that obviously is going to have some sort of return at some point, and there is a Saudi show that they announced in October, so that feels like Goldberg territory. He's the Saudi guy. So, all right. Well, main event was Roman Reigns against John Cena for the Universal Championship. It was the summer of Cena. John Cena graced us with his presence. He came back. He wrestled a whole bunch of house shows, played all the hits there, took a big L to Roman Reigns here in 23 minutes. It was a couple of Superman punches and a spear that he took. Roman retained the Universal Championship. About to celebrate with Paul in the ring. They're just on the brink of celebrating when Brock Lesnar this time. Brock Lesnar's music hits, and out comes Brock Lesnar. John Smith, were you happy to hear that Brock Lesnar appeared at SummerSlam?
Oh, it was crazy. I was in the middle of work, so I was watching the match on my phone, and then the second Roman pinned Cena, I was like, okay, show's over. I just put my phone away, and then I get home and I put on some random podcast that a guy that I listen to on the Fan. He always talks about the big pay-per-views after they happen. So I put on his podcast, and 10 seconds into it, he said something about Brock Lesnar. I was like, no way! And I turned the freaking phone off. I ran to the computer. I threw on the mat at the end of the match, and I couldn't believe my eyes. First of all, the way Brock looked with that mane he's got and that weird beard. I mean, he should color it a little darker if he wants to look badass. But I guess you can do what you want when you're the alpha male of our species, according to Pat McAfee.
John DeConnie, James Wheeler wants to just thank WWE for being able to bring in John Cena for a match against Roman Reigns. But Brock Lesnar was the winner of SummerSlam as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he came out. All he had to do was, what now? The entranceway was absurdly long for this in this stadium setup, but all he had to do was walk through the curtain, walk to the ring, get within a foot of Roman, and then he got to. Roman said, "Yeah, not tonight." Stepped out. And Brock got to take all the adulation from the crowd for the next, 5-10 minutes or whatever it was. He found, I guess from reports we got after the fact, he found Cena, who had rolled out but was still hanging around the ringside. He brought him back inside, reintroduced him to Suplex City, and like you said, he won the weekend with very minimal effort.
Well, what's fun about that is that Roman Reigns wins the match. He wants to celebrate, to send everybody home for SummerSlam. Out comes Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, he steals the spotlight on the televised portion, and then he steals the spotlight afterwards by sending John Cena to Suplex City. But then once Brock leaves, then John Cena slowly makes it up, and he sends everybody home happy that John Cena poses and does his stuff, and John Cena's music is the final music that the live crowd heard at SummerSlam. So what a fun way to end the show. But what they announced during the show was that WWE is going to return to Allegiant Stadium next July 4th weekend for Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank getting the Big Four treatment is going to be a stadium show next year. So it's kind of who is going to win the Money in the Bank briefcase on that big of a stage? I think it's a pretty interesting question.
That's going to be another, Vegas hopping weekend because the weekend of July 4th is always International Fight Week for MMA as well. So Vegas will be bubbling over that weekend. That's going to be big, big stuff.
Maybe The Rock wins it.
Ooh, Rock wins Money in the Bank. That's fun. I don't know if he'll get The Rock to sign up for a ladder match.
Well, he could do it. He could do what Brock Lesnar did a few years ago. Just come in at the end.
Right. Poor Mustafa Ali. Right. He was about to win this thing, and ever since that, poor guy has not done much since. So poor guy. All right. Well, let's move from SummerSlam. It was a fun show. 10 matches, like we said, 11 when you include the pre-show. We did have Monday Night Raw last night, and we had some interesting things come out of it. Bobby Lashley kicks off the show. Damian Priest comes out, so it's all of a sudden, we're gonna get champion versus champion. Even if no title's on the line, we're going to get that big match. And we do. They actually get to a Damian Priest versus Bobby Lashley match that lasts about a minute before Sheamus breaks it up. And then we have what is always the case. We get a tag team match, playa. Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest versus Sheamus and Bobby Lashley. McIntyre and Priest get the win in about 15 minutes. But all of this leads to a Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus match for next week because partway through the match, Bobby took a walk. So Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus for next week. John Smith, we'll kick it over to you. What do you think here? Is this the same logic apply here that applied to the Good Brothers match? Are we going to see Sheamus get a win over Bobby to set up a match?
I don't think so. I think Bobby will take him out. I think they'll give him a nice like 15-minute match though. I hope they do. I'd love to see these two really go at it in the same way that like Drew and Sheamus went at it.
Right. It'd be a great match for Raw to have like that big 15-minute match or whatever. John and Connie, what say you?
Bobby's going to need an opponent for Extreme Rules. I don't know if this is where it happens. I'm going to say Lashley wins it here, but Sheamus, continues to annoy him for the next month and winds up as the victim at Extreme Rules.
Yeah, here's how I think this is going to play out. I think Bobby Lashley is going to win here, but Sheamus is going to have an axe to grind with the way it goes down. And so that'll lead to a stipulation match at Extreme Rules. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. So
MVP in the shark cage.
We can't overuse the shark cage. We already have to use it for Paul Heyman. All right. Well, Karrion Kross, he got another win on the show. He went a minute and a half with a big victory over Ricochet. He's got a whole new outfit, which I guess maybe they're doing so that they can sell some merch or something. And so, John Smith, if they put on sale the Karrion Kross helmet, are you going to be the first in line to buy that? I know you're a big Kross guy.
No, I'm not going to get the helmet. When I saw him come out, I thought he looked kind of like Demolition, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I was totally fine with it until the stuff stayed on him.
Yes.
If he had taken it off and it was just like a ring attire or entrance attire, I would have been fine with it. But it totally clashed with what he was wearing down below. It looked like it didn't go together at all. It's like he put on a pair of suspenders the wrong way or something.
Yeah, I think John DeConnie, I think Smith has it right. He did like invoke a Demolition vibe, but do you think Pain and Destruction were his middle name?
No, clearly not. He looked to me. It was reminiscent of the Lord of the Wasteland, Among Us, Mad Max movies.
All right, well let's move on to the moistest part of the show, John Smith.
Oh, I can't get enough of Johnny Drip Drip. And it finally happened. We got Logan Paul was his guest on Moist TV, who got met with tons of heel heat, even though he was trying to be the baby face in the situation. Excuse me. Water went down the wrong pipe earlier. So then the Miz comes out, John Morrison gets upset that Miz always makes everything about him, blah, blah, blah. We finally get the match between Xavier Woods and The Miz after a lot of bickering between the moistest tag team on the planet. And then Woods beats The Miz. Then Miz, after the match, makes up with Morrison, but they don't make up, actually, because Miz attacks him immediately after they start celebrating after making up. And we finally got the Johnny face turn, which is more just, Miz attacking his friend and turning his friend face. But no matter how it happened, I don't care. This is going to be awesome moving forward. Once we get through this feud between the two of them, then we got to face Johnny Drip looking for a title.
Man, I hope you are right. But yes, next week, as mentioned, we have John Morrison versus The Miz in a singles match. This has, you're mentioning, I think you said feud, not match. This has Extreme Rules written all over it by the time we're done. So, but John Smith, are you picking John Morrison? He seemed to be your guy here.
Just because they probably will end up in Extreme Rules against each other, I'm going to go with Miz cheating to win on this one, or maybe Johnny wins by count out because Miz just like runs away or something. I don't see this thing ending anytime soon, like you said. So
yeah. John DeConnie, what do you say here?
Yeah, along those same lines. Miz does something dirty, so Morrison wins the feud at Extreme Rules, but maybe doesn't get the win here. Miz gets the first win.
Okay, so here's my thoughts. I love the idea of John Morrison making a singles run. So in any case here, I want him to come out the winner of this feud. Miz doesn't need the win or anything. What I'm fearful of, though, is with the whole parkour style stuff that John Morrison does, that we're going to see a bunch of Reggie and John Morrison interaction as opposed to the singles title that we might want him to chase. So
I hope not. Unless they legitimize the 24/7 title. I would be fine with John Morrison legitimizing that title somehow.
I always thought that they should just put that title on Brock Lesnar, because then he'll defend it anytime you want. But who's gonna mess with him? You're not gonna get Tozawa. You have a whole bunch of funny things where people run up to him and they're like, realize it's him, and then. All right. Well, we had some other matches on Raw last night. We have Mansoor. He gets a win over Jinder Mahal because Jinder Mahal's mad and won't answer the ref's count. 2 minutes and 18 seconds. That means Jinder Mahal has lost 2 matches in less than 7 minutes. For those people keeping track. Rhea Ripley and Nikki Ash, they defeated Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, which begs the question of whether Rhea Ripley is also almost a superhero. If she comes out as Rhea Ripley Ash, what will the crowd do there? And then John DeConnie, main event time, 13 minutes, 27 seconds. Matt Riddle, or Riddle as he's known now, versus AJ Styles.
Yeah, so these, obviously these two mesh really well. They have good ring chemistry, and we got 13 plus minutes out of them. But once again, this is less about the fact that two incredible competitors are in the ring, and it's more about the storytelling, because the whole segment started with Riddle calling out Randy and giving him his celebratory present, his own jackknife scooter that folds up and this, that, and the other thing. Then AJ and Omos came out to interrupt. We have the match. Once again, for the second week in a row, Riddle gets distracted just by jaw-jacking with Omos at ringside. Last week, he got pulled down into a Styles clash, but AJ, what's a fight? Anyway, Randy attacks Omos outside with the scooter, and he's like, he laid into him with that damn scooter. I cannot imagine Omos was very pleased in the end. But that further distraction this time worked in Riddle's favor. He was able to grab AJ and hit the Bro Derek for the win. And afterwards, Randy added the exclamation point, giving AJ an RKO, and RK Bro win the evening.
Yeah, and as they used to say during the Hogan years, you got to send him home happy. And right now, that just means send him home with an RKO at the end of the night. James Wheeler chiming in again in the chat. John Morrison about to have an amazing face run. I hope so. I hope so for sure. And then also mentioning that Rhea Ripley and Nikki Ash is the female version of RK Bro. I could see that. I could see that. All right, well, we are not done with Monday Night Raw because we have one more match for next week, and it has to do with Al Carl's favorite wrestler, Eva Marie. She is getting what I think she is getting what's coming to her as she squares off against Dewdrop. John DeConnie Dewdrop says she likes the name, even though she wasn't really happy when she got it to begin with. Is this vengeance time for Dewdrop?
God, I hope so. I hope this doesn't drag any further. Just let Dewdrop squash her and just let her go back to vignettes where she looks pretty, next to a car or something like that. I do not need to see Eva Marie in between the ropes.
All right, but John Smith, let's just say that we do. Let's say that this thing continues. What is the stipulation for Dewdrop versus Eva Marie at Extreme Rules?
I want to say hair versus hair. But if that's the case, there's no way we're getting a bald Eva Marie. So then we're going to have to watch a bald Piper Niven. So I really hope that that's not the stipulation, but I feel like that might be the direction they go in.
Who do you have for tomorrow?
I'm taking Eva Marie, kind of in the same vein as I'm taking Miz in the other match, because I think it's going to progress to a pay-per-view.
I'm going with Dewdrop because I like her more. All right, before we close out on the main roster activity, I do think it's appropriate that at this time we bring up the main roster standings and realize that the person on top of the standings is not even a weekly regular on the show, so we ignore that. Move down a peg to me, who is leading, and I can make these comments since I will just sleep on the couch. All right, the main event of SummerSlam weekend is the main event of our show. We are switching over to NXT. We had a heck of a takeover. Every match was great from top to bottom. Gary and I already talked about Dragunov and Walter. What a match. Guys, I didn't plan on bringing it up in the regular conversation here, but either of you have anything you want to say about Walter Dragunov?
Just that it was real good. I'm once again, shame on me. I don't watch UK as much as I should, but god damn, do those guys put on a show.
Yeah.
That was the hardest hitting match I think I've ever seen. Many times I was like, oh shit. Like probably 6-7 times. Like when Dragunov did the downward spinning slap to the inside of Walter's thigh, my whole body tingled because I felt that. It was disgusting watching them go at it. I loved it.
There was one point where Walter chopped Dragunov, and the connection was so violent, and Dragunov dropped it so fast. I thought that Walter was going to win off that chop. I thought the thing was coming. That's
how he beat Tommaso Ciampa, with a chop.
Right.
And then the stuff to the back of each other's heads too. It was ridiculous. I love it.
That is some strong style right there. Okay, so on TakeOver, aside from that, which was everybody's match of the year at the moment, that's getting thrown around a lot. On the pre-show for TakeOver, we had a 1.5 minute victory for Ridge Holland over poor Trey Baxter. So Ridge Holland gets his win, and he'll be facing off against Timothy Thatcher on tonight's episode of NXT. Spoilers are out there, folks, so do what you can to avoid them. So, but John DeConnie, will go with you first. Who do you like, Ridge Holland or Timothy Thatcher?
I don't see Holland doing a lot of losing, since he is, excuse the unintentional pun, kind of the prototype of a WWE wrestler moving forward. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Holland here.
Yeah, over 6 foot, under 30. John Smith, is there any reason why Ridge Holland doesn't come out victorious here?
No way. He's mini Brock Lesnar. I got him taking it.
And he's got to win this so that he can advance to fight Ciampa, right? I mean, that's the storyline they've already built up.
Yeah, and then it's M. Bison.
Yeah, that's right. Directly afterwards. Well, okay. Well, before we get into some more of the takeover matches, let's take a look at the NXT standings, which is crazy that we have Gary Mehaffy at the top, and it's not by a little. Gary is up there by a lot. He's leading the pack by 20. The rest of us are pretty close. Travis and John Smith are both tied at 59. I'm back at 53, and John DeConnie are 47. So Gary is running away with NXT. We're going to have to put him down on the next show for sure.
Yeah, he's the only one that called Dragunov to win.
Yeah. So John Smith, Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight for the $1 Million Championship opened the show at TakeOver.
Yeah, this is the match that we deserved the first time, but it kind of got overshadowed by the fact that we were just getting the $1 Million Championship back, and it was a ladder match and yada, yada, yada. I wasn't too impressed with the first match. This match was awesome. It went a lot longer. They had great psychology throughout. DiBiase rarely got involved until the finish, which is fine because LA Knight was going to use the belts, so DiBiase did what he had to do to keep himself from being a butler.
Right.
Grimes, well, you knew that Grimes was winning right when you saw the tights he was wearing when he took off that butler outfit. That was he had win face written all over him when he was coming down to the ring. So yeah, we got the win with the $1 Million Dream, I believe. Oh no, he got it with the cave-in, but he set him up with the $1 Million Dream right beforehand. Pretty much.
You're right. We did get to see the $1 Million Dream from Ted DiBiase. So a feel-good moment, right? We've got the Cameron Grimes is your $1 Million Champion. So both shows, SummerSlam and TakeOver, they both start off with a title change and a feel-good moment. And we move into, John DeConnie, the NXT Women's Championship, Raquel Gonzalez versus Dakota Kai.
To the moon, yes, indeed. Yeah, we had the Women's Championship up next. The two quote-unquote best friends, and they ripped each other apart for about 12 and a half minutes. And it looked like Dakota was setting up. She was, going after that round the world kick. I forget exactly what she calls it, but she had Big Mommy Cool sitting up on the top buckle. She came running around, and Raquel caught her, just powered her up, and off that stood up off the second buckle to hit the apparently what is now called the Chingona Bomb. But that one-arm power slam just rocked the ring with it. Dakota takes the big bump, and Raquel gets the 1, 2, 3. And then, but wait, there's more. As Raquel stood in the ring, with her NXT title, we get, and good on the NXT crowd for recognizing, because, we're not on Earth 2 here where the UK doesn't exist. We got some music, we got some video, and right up in front of the Tron is the former Forever champion, Kaylee Ray, who just kind of comes out. They make eye contact. That's all we needed.
Yeah. Kaylee Ray is now in NXT. So that's the message, I think. James Wheeler chiming in saying that that the Raquel and Dakota had the same vibe as HBK versus Diesel at WrestleMania 11. While a fair comparison to the feud, let us never again compare a takeover to WrestleMania 11. Not one of the high spots in the history of WWE. But James also saying that Raquel's growing on him as a dominant champion. Don't get too attached, James, because I think Raquel Gonzalez is taking an L to Kaylee Ray. That's just my thoughts in the future, because I think Raquel's going to the main roster. I may be alone. I may be on an island there, but that's what I've been thinking about. So.
Yeah, I think she's just too enticing to bring up, so you're probably very right there.
But tonight on NXT, we have Kaylee Ray in action. In action's name is Valentina Feroz tonight. We know that from the spoiler reports. So anybody want to take a guess at whether or not Kaylee Ray gets the victory here?
I'm going to go with yes.
1 vote for Kaylee Ray, 2 votes for Kaylee Ray. John Smith?
Samesies.
Okay. All right. Well, that little pause to talk about in action aside, John DeConnie, let's move on to the next match, which was a 2 out of 3 falls match that went 25 minutes. Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole. Baby.
Yes, we had our undisputed finale where the first fall was a standard wrestling match because O'Reilly knew that if he were to beat Cole, it would drive him absolutely insane in a standard grappling match. And that's exactly what happened when Cole went for the Panama Sunrise but could not complete the flip. And O'Reilly just trapped his legs and sat down into a pinning combo. We knew one of the falls was going to be pretty quick. It was that first one. That was only about 3.5 minutes. So then we moved on to the street fight. The end of this one, good God. This one went, 13 minutes or so, and O'Reilly was up on the top buckle. He was getting ready to look for that diving knee to the back of the head, but Cole was too fast, yanked him off the top, and sent him down spine first onto a chair that was unfolded and standing up in the ring, and he landed right across that back support. It was ugly. Thank God he clearly was okay, but then he took a last shot and a 1-2-3 to lose the second fall. Now they're 1-1, so of course they go on to the steel cage third fall, but Cole didn't want to let it just proceed very easily. Before the cage could even collapse down around the ring, he dragged O'Reilly out of the ring and beat the hell out of him around and onto the announce table, then kind of rolled his beaten body back in as the cage completed its travel to close in on them. They went about another 8.5 minutes with Cole breaking out the leg irons, the cuffs, handcuffs, on the end of with about 2 feet of chain in the middle of them. He chains one of O'Reilly's wrists to the top rope, and you're saying to yourself, he can just beat him bloody here and then climb out of the ring. There's a whole bunch of things he could do. Well, the problem was he got a little too close and let O'Reilly get his hands on him, and even with one arm locked to the top rope, he was able to take Cole down, put in the heel hook for a quick tap, win the third fall and the undisputed finale 2-1. Kyle O'Reilly is your winner in a total of about 25.5 minutes.
So on the same show, we have Walter and Adam Cole tapping out. Kind of an incredible set of circumstances there. John Smith, though, that second fall, where it was on the upright chairs, that's a nasty move to take, but they know how to fall, right?
Oh yeah, it's those are the fake chairs.
Yeah, that's right. There's padding on them, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, John Smith, tell us about the main event, which was not the main event any of us thought it would be. We thought that Cole and O'Reilly would be on last in the undisputed finale of the undisputed weekend, but it's Samoa Joe versus Karrion Kross, NXT Championship on the line.
Yeah, now that I think about it, looking back, it made sense that it was the main event. That was the poster. It was Joe's big comeback. I'm sure Joe was probably not up for the idea of not main eventing when he wins the title, on his comeback. So I feel like it should have been the main event. I mean, it did get overshadowed by the two men's title matches beforehand, or the two not title matches, but the two main event to style matches beforehand. But this, it was still a lot better than I expected, considering Joe hasn't been in the ring for a while. You saw them go back and forth. They each got their choke in. They, you saw an angle slam and ankle lock from Karrion Kross. You got a cross face from Joe. They're in the ring, out of the ring, beating the crap out of each other all over the place, but completely different than what Dragunov and Walter were doing. And then by the end of the match, Karrion Kross hops up, sits on the top rope like he's about to do some sort of shoulder block or something. He gets punched in the stomach, and we see the muscle buster, which we haven't seen since he put out Tyson Kidd about 6 years ago with it. So I was very surprised to see that. And the second he had him up for it, I was like, oh, this one's over. And we got a new NXT champion with a muscle buster.
Yeah, Karrion Kross climbing the ropes was kind of weird, but he has had a lot of matches with Jeff Hardy recently, so I guess it kind of makes sense.
Well, it made sense in the transition they were doing. He did like he lifted his knee when Joe was coming into the turnbuckle. Then it looked like he was like hopping up onto his ass to then like just do a jumping shoulder block or something. I don't think he was trying to do some sort of Jeff Hardy maneuver, but that's why big guys don't belong on the top rope, because they might get muscle busted.
Well, he can take more high-flying lessons from Ricochet on the next night on Raw, which is what he did. But he put Ricochet down pretty quick. So
yeah, and he put the choke on right, too. He wasn't grabbing his own face this time.
All right. Well, we have a little bit more business to do on NXT before we finish things up. Tonight, we have the Breakout Tournament finale. John DeConnie, I'll go with you. We got Carmelo Hayes and Odyssey Jones in the Breakout finale. What say you?
It would be so funny if Triple H, in light of what's been going on, decided to kind of say F you, Vince, and let Carmelo Hayes win. But as much as that would absolutely tickle me, I see Odyssey Jones taking this.
John Smith, what do you think?
Yeah, Odyssey Jones has been my pick from the time I saw his first match in this tournament. So I'm not going to go against it now. But he's almost so over that he doesn't need to win. So I wouldn't be surprised if Carmelo Hayes did win the match, because Odyssey Jones is really like the only guy that's over out of the 8 guys that were in the tournament.
Absolutely. This is not related, but I'll put it up. James Wheeler mentioning that he thought back in April, he said that the Indy Loomis wedding should have a vibes of Bride of Frankenstein vibe to it, and that is the timing may work out for him. So,
yeah.
It depends on how long their engagement is. You never, you don't want to rush these things.
Well, Johnny's got a lot to say about it, and Candace too. So maybe they'll be getting in the way for a while until Halloween Havoc.
The way is in the way of a way wedding. I got it. Okay. Well, we have Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter. They're going to be in a tag team match tonight. They're facing Gigi Dolan and what's her name?
JC Jane.
JC Jane. We don't yet have graphics for Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, but they have been getting all the love recently on the show. So, John Smith, what do you say?
Yeah, it seems like a cheat to win situation for Gigi and JC.
Yeah, so you're picking against Jersey, John DeConnie. What do you think?
Unfortunately, I have to concur. It seems like Gigi and JC are working this angle where they're very dark and brooding, and we haven't seen a whole lot of their ring work yet. But I'm sure we'll see. We'll see how they figure out how to cheat to win, because that's what I expect as well.
All right, and I will abstain because I read this or heard the spoilers, didn't read them, so I will abstain. But Santos Escobar at TakeOver, he said, "He who laughs last laughs best." And we have a 6-man tag tonight, likely the main event of the show. We have Legado del Fantasma versus Hit Row. In the graphic, Top Dollar conspicuous by his absence. John DeConnie, what do you say? Do we have Legado coming out of this, or we have Hit Row?
The picture of Top Dollar, not nada. I said last week in the watch along thread, the weird thing about this little war is that it's kind of been maybe a little obvious, or maybe not so obvious, but what the hell is her name? BFAB. She's been the turning point. They were beating up on Swerve in the ring, and she came in. It looked like it was over. It looked like Legado were gonna rule the day 2 weeks ago, and she came in, hit somebody with a chair, Mendoza, I think, and then Hit Row got the upper hand again. And then last week they lured them out to the parking lot, and again she came in with the lead pipe, and that turned that around, and again Hit Row lumped up Legado. I'm not familiar with everyone who is down at the Performance Center, but it just makes way too much sense. There's got to be someone that, even if they put her under a lucha mask, there's got to be a Spanish female on the roster somewhere that they can bring in and let that be how Legado turns the tide and finally wins this little back and forth, at least in this moment. Now that it's going to be a full 3-on-3, you're going to have BFAB around the ringside. They need a woman on their side, Legado del Fantasma, to help even things out.
Interesting theory. Now, in I believe it was WrestleMania 6, John, where Dusty Rhodes revealed the crown jewel. Well, that was the equalizer when Miss Elizabeth walked out. So, what say you on tonight? This has got to be a crisis of conscience for you, right? You're a big Top Dollar fan. You love Legado. I don't know. You must not know what to do about tonight.
Well, I think I know what happens because of what Gary was saying backstage.
Yeah.
So I'm going to refrain from picking, but it doesn't change how much I want to see the match because I love all parties involved. So it's not going to be a fast forward situation for me.
Right. I think this will be the main event, and again, I will also abstain. But if it's not the main event, there is one more match that's going to be on the show tonight, and this one might just steal the show. It's Boa. He's in action. He'll be wrestling tonight on the show, and he could. There's a chance he could main event. He's got just as good a chance as anybody, I guess. So, John Smith, you got a thought? Is Boa going to come out on top?
Yeah, I think so.
John DeConnie.
Sure, why not?
I will, of course, abstain as for previous reasons. Now, I said, of course, that we would main event the show with NXT and NXT TakeOver, but I was not being completely genuine because we're going to main event the show with the overall standings.
You son of a bitch.
On top.
Ooh.
By 40 points ahead of John Smith and a few more ahead of John, 48 points ahead of John DeConnie. So building up my lead for I have to do that because those WrestleMania matches are worth a lot of points. So
Hey, Royal Rumble is when I shine, so you better have a big lead around Royal Rumble time, buddy.
yeah, Survivor Series and Royal Rumble, right? Tons of points with those confident points at Survivor Series and then Rumble with the final four. Lots and lots of points. You're right. I better build up the lead some more. You cut into it this past weekend. So
Yeah, freaking Goldberg, man. I would have had my first ever perfect SummerSlam if it wasn't for Goldberg losing.
That's a 50-point swing, John.
I know,
50
man.
points.
50 points. And then no, it's 75 because you would have lost 50
That's
or
right.
25, and I would have gotten 50 because of the perfect score, too. I'd be sitting pretty on top right now if Goldberg won.
John, we don't have a math podcast in the Eastern Observer, so I don't know what you're talking about.
It's pronounced MAF, M-A-F.
Oh, I see. Well, one thing we do have, we have the primetime rundown, and I'm not going to be the one to tell you about that. Not when we got Joey Jarzinka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca sitting backstage.
Thanks, Al. Summer Mondays are back for the Primetime Rundown as myself, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca will be coming to you with the Primetime Rundown right here on the Eastern Observer on Monday nights beginning at 7 p.m. all the way until August 30th. Make sure to join us on the following platforms.
All right, Joey Jarzinka must not have got the news that Carmelo is hosting the show today. So that side, we will talk through the Daily Wrestling News Show each Monday through Thursday. I am hosting. We sort through all the balderdash or whatever Al likes to say to bring you the truth. Tune in every Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. for the Daily Wrestling News Show. And the Body Slam Brigade newsletter, we have a brand new format, super easy to read. Over 4,500 people are getting it now each Friday at 11 a.m. So subscribe now at bodyslambrigade.com. And then everybody likes free cake and the black hats. This graphic says new album, but guys, this has been out for a year. And if you haven't listened to it yet, you are missing the boat. Check it out on Spotify, Pandora, or everywhere else you can get your music. And Pro Wrestling Pick'em, it's a place where you can create or host a Pick'em League to test your predictive skills in the world of pro wrestling. Create an account today. Join a league now at ProWrestlingPick'em.com so you can play against your friends, play against the universe. Guys, she'll like it too, and you can try to take me down from my big 40-point lead over John Smith if you join the Essential Wrestling Podcast League. And this show, the Essential Wrestling Podcast, we're here every Tuesday night at 6 p.m., whether Al Carl's off on a honeymoon or whatever thing John DeConnie said at the top of the show. We're here every Tuesday at 6. We have updates and highlights in the world of wrestling, find out who we think is going to win the week's matches, and I promise Al will be back next week, and I think he's kicking me off the show next week, so he will be here and I will not be. So King Kong Bundy has taken over John Smith's spot. The final countdown, James Wheeler says, 29 days away from AEW Dynamite Grand Slam. That's going to be a big show. We'll see what happens there.
By the way, I got my tickets finally to the AEW show that I won a year and a half ago before the pandemic started.
Nice.
So I was emailing, I emailed the radio station. I emailed AEW, who were very impolite, one-word responses and stuff like that. But finally, I got an email from Ticketmaster. Oh, your 4 tickets are in. So I don't know who made it happen, whether it was AEW or ESPN Radio, but shout out to one of them because I got my tickets. So, and they're actually pretty good. They're camera side.
Nice.
And they're first level, not floor, but the first main level of seats. It'll be the left side of the screen, hopefully. So I'll have my Cody is trash sign, and it'll be really big. And you guys can look for me. I'll have a PWP sign also for you, and a bell time sign we'll be holding up and all that. But Cody is trash is going to be the one that's held up the most, and that's on September 15th.
Well, Nick chiming in saying that CM Punk return was amazing. We talked about that at the top of the show. Glad you thought so too. John Smith, hopefully you get to see CM Punk when you go to the Prudential Center in New Jersey. And then this is his first time watching the podcast, so thank you for watching for sure. But guys, anything else in the world of wrestling that we need to talk about? We hit all the brands. So did we leave anything out?
No, that was that weekend. Required a cigarette afterwards. We got everything we could have wanted there. We got some fantastic wrestling, some fantastic storytelling, surprise returns. Not much more you could ask for in a 72-hour period.
Now, we're not going to address this question. Nick's asking why you're dissing Cody Rhodes, and we don't have time for John to go into this. I'm actually wearing a Cody Rhodes shirt. I'm not dissing him, but John will need a couple of hours, and we only have a few minutes, so we're not going to get into that. But I guess to close out the show, Alexa Bliss, I don't know what you're up to. Hopefully Charlotte can get you straightened out. Larry Steve, you're always in our hearts. And for John, for Gary, for Al Carl, for Travis, I'm Ryan. This has been Essential Wrestling Podcast, episode 68, and we will see you next week.